Today's the 1st of April and we're starting part 3 of my draft 2 for Rules of Survival. If you're new here and you've never heard of Rules of Survival, it is my space horror, zombies in space sci-fi novel that I have been writing in 2025 when I vlogged the entire journey for draft 1, and since 2026 I have started draft 2. I'm currently sitting at 45,000 words for part 1 and 2 of my structure. I also made a whole episode where I freaked out about structure in general, which is why my book is technically 5 parts rather than 3 acts or 4 acts or whatever else you want to call it. I've realized what works best for me is to call it parts because I'm not entirely sure they're acts, but there are 5 of them. That I am sure of. I finished part 2 in March and it is now the month of April. I am gonna attempt to write the entirety of part 3, to edit it at least, this month. However, it's a really busy month, and in fact tomorrow I am leaving for my best friend's hen do weekend, and it's gonna be a whole weekend trip for the whole of Easter, and I'm not really gonna have any downtime to write, obviously, because I'll be busy all the time doing activities, you know, for the hen do itself and for the bride. So not gonna write much. I will try to write on the train to get there and on the train back to London, so maybe I'll have a little bit of traveling writing time, but that's about it. So I have added a calendar view to my Notion page. So I have made this calendar view of what my reverse outline already was. So if I go back to table, this is what you may have seen in previous videos. Essentially, I have split my book in a structure format on the left here where I say part 1, part 2, so that I know which part I'm in. And we're now done with 21 scenes out of 50 in total. And we're now getting into part 3, which is scenes 22 until scenes and including scene 31. What I have been doing as well is I added a new word count column just so I can compare. I find it really useful just to see how many words I'm getting compared to the first draft, and I am overall going up in word count, so it's not great because I know I'm an overwriter, but also I'm trying not to use too many filter and fill words, and hopefully I'm keeping it down. So it's usually towards the line edit that I start bringing it back down anyway. And then I've also got this status thing, so I can click this one as in progress because that's currently the scene that we're going to be working on, this new scene where they enter the control room for the first time. And if I go to the calendar view, you can then see what my plan is. So you can see it's the 1st of April right now. Where I have placed my cards for my scenes is actually where I'm planning on finishing writing the scene. It's not, I haven't put like a length of how long I plan on writing the scene because I have no idea. Sometimes I do end up writing an entire scene within the same day, especially during the weekends. But even just yesterday was a weekday and I finished the entirety of my last scene, which was 2,600 words or so. You can see in this calendar view, I've tried to put all of the scenes that I'm planning to do this month, which are scene 22 up until scene 31, which would be the entirety of part 3. Each of them also have a little icon here, which I can change. So if I click on it, I can change it to checked if I'm done, but it's currently not done, so I'll change that back. And I have put the information here of the scene number. So we have the title, which is the scene number based on which chapter I was in. So 14.2 for chapter 14, scene 2. But underneath it, the number is the actual order of the scenes that I've got, which is wrong because I don't know why 26 is over there. It should be here. This should be here. And this should be here. Interesting. I did not notice that before. Anyway, this is the order because I did number them. In the settings, this is where you can decide what property visibility you want from the cards that you've got. So in there I have status, the number, which is like the scene number, and words for the word count. I find it useful to see the word count on the calendar view because then I know realistically, can I finish an entire scene if that scene is 2,248 words in one day? Maybe not. But realistically, can I do that if the scene is 734 words? Yes, I absolutely can. So that's really helpful for me to see. So for instance, these two scenes, 29 and 30, are a little bit shorter than most of my scenes. So I kind of feel like putting them here makes sense because maybe I'll have some time around Monday 27, which I have off because I'm also traveling that weekend of the 25th and 26th, and so I took the Monday off to rest, so maybe I'll do a little bit of writing around there. So that's what we're working with. I'm hopeful that I can finish this part during the month of April, but I will also be very kind to myself and give myself a lot of grace if I cannot, because I'm very aware of how many travel plans I have this month, and so if it has to spill into May, that's fine. That's okay. We can deal with that. Today is the 8th of April, it is Wednesday, and I have survived my best friend's hen-do, bachelorette party, whatever you want to call it. That was last weekend. I came back on Sunday. We drove back and then I took the train back to London, and so a lot of traveling happening on Sunday, and then went to sleep really early Sunday evening, and Monday morning woke up refreshed and having the full day in front of me to do nothing. So I had a PJ day on Monday and that was glorious. But I also wrote a lot. I wrote a tiny bit while I was on the train to Brussels and on the train back, not much. And then I wrote quite a bit on Monday because I had the day off and it was Easter Monday. I didn't want to do any of the other chores I set myself to do. So I had like a list of things I needed to do in the house, including unpacking. And I had no desire to do them whatsoever. So I ended up writing a ton as like a procrastination thing, which was great because I did quite a bit. So where are we at now? So we're currently very close to 50k in the manuscript. We're sitting at 49,506 words. And so far for the month, and therefore for this part 3, for this act, I've got 4,345 words, which is not bad at all. In terms of the scenes and where I am at, so I'm currently in scene 24 out of, again, 50 in total. And I have written the brand new scene. So that's what I did mostly on the trains. When I was writing on the trains, I was doing scene 23, which was, no, I was doing scene 22, which was the new scene that sits in the control room. So I just made that scene in an Axel POV scene because I realized I had very little Axel POV scene within that part of the book, and I was feeling like it was all Themis. This scene also makes more sense to be from his POV because it sits right after there's been a little bit more information, and like, I don't know, it's good to get it from his POV, I think. I may change my mind. I have not fully reread it yet, so I might have some changes when I finally do. But currently I'm feeling the flow of just right. I then wrote scene 23 and now I'm at scene 24. And I've done quite a bit of moving things around, changing some small things here and there. And I think I'm finally entering scenes that don't have as much movement compared to draft 1 and are going to be a little bit more just retyping, remembering to change some things I changed earlier, but like that's it. I am also really happy with some of the changes that I've done because I've had a moment in scene 23, which is Axel is going into Themis's room when she's not there because he suspects something's up. He realizes that she's hiding something and he's worried about it, so he decides to snoop around her room. And initially I had something about him finding her latest simulation parameters in Lovelace. So when she asked Lovelace, at this parameter or this parameter, how many people survive? What are the chances? One of the previous scenes she was asking, she was thinking about Kovac sort of sacrificing himself so that her and Freddie could get away, and she input a new parameter that was like, what if the captain sacrifices themselves to help save more people? Something along those lines. And then this leads to Axel reading that and thinking that she's got suicidal ideas and becoming really worried about her. But this never goes anywhere because she's not actually suicidal, and like this was just one of the parameters that she was trying to see everything. She does have a thing where she thinks more about other people's survival than her own, which is the problem, but not to the point of she's trying to kill herself in order to save people. That's not what she's trying to do. And so it never really went anywhere in draft one, and I didn't really like that scene. I didn't like that moment in that scene. So I changed it because in the control room, she also asks Jones to borrow a drone because I had a payoff that I didn't have a setup for, which was the moment that we understand she's been placing all these dirty made bombs all around the settlement because she wants to bomb the place up and make sure that Vortex cannot come back and like get those samples again and send more teams again to this place. I didn't really prepare this in draft one, moments where it's clear that that's what she's doing. I had like a couple, but I think I did it a little bit late and I didn't like how I did it. So this time around in the control room, she asked Jones to get a drone, and hopefully it'll come clear and I'll put it together neatly, but the idea is that she does so because she's going to use the drone to place bombs all around the settlement outside. And that's kind of what Axel discovers. He doesn't know it's for bombs, but he discovers the flight path that she set up for the drones, and he finds it odd because it stops in several places and he doesn't know why, and he realizes the one in front has a camera, that one doesn't have a camera, but it has higher thrusters or something like that so that it can carry more weight. So obviously he doesn't know what she's doing, but he knows she's up to something and he figures out something else, right? So that was the idea. I know this is very complicated to explain, but I was really glad that I figured something else that he finds out that gives him a hint, but that is not something that doesn't go with Themis's personality. Like, I still need it to make sense with her personality. And it also helps me set up the whole I've been planting bombs everywhere thing. So yeah. Anyway, the next scene that I'm currently writing, what am I writing? Oh, the next scene that I'm writing is when Themis is woken up in the middle of the night because she hears a noise and realizes that there could be something in one of the habitats that they have not unsealed yet. But then they also figure out the schedule for the daylights comes back on. And I think because they've already opened the control room, I think Jones won't have touched this because he'll have been like, the schedule looks fine. And maybe she realizes there's like been an override of the regular schedule that allows for the fake daylights to come back on after they've been off for 10 minutes max or something like that. Basically, I'd already set this up in draft one, but I just need to make sure that it works with my new scene in the control room and that I haven't fucked it up by adding some stuff in there. So yeah, that's it. I am also leaving tomorrow for Seville and I'm not going to be able to vlog much, but I'll take some B-roll footage of everything. I'm going until Monday and I will try to write a little bit because it's just me and my husband, and sometimes in the evenings I'm sure he'll have his Steam Deck or his Switch to like play video games every now and then. Sometimes in the evenings we want to do our own thing, so I'll probably be writing a little bit, just not a ton. Today is Sunday the 19th of April and I have just finished looking at scene 28, and we're still in part 3, so I was doing scenes 22 up until scene 31 and I've just finished scene 28, which means I have 3 scenes left exactly in this part to finish editing part 3. I feel very productive considering I knew this month was going to be really difficult to write in. I did write a lot more than I anticipated when I travelled, because I wrote a little bit when I was in Seville. We had like one day when we decided to do nothing and we still walked 10,000 steps even though we decided to do nothing, just to go between the different places to like eat breakfast, lunch and dinner and all that. But I took some of that time of that day to write a ton, so I felt good about my progress. And then since coming back, I feel like I've written pretty much every single day, maybe except for one. So I've managed to stay fairly consistent and try to do a little bit here and there. And I've had like a quieter day as well yesterday and today, so I've managed to write quite a bit. I am ill though, I don't think you can hear it that much, so that's fine, but I feel a little bit congested and I have like a bit of a throat ache, and I can tell that it's just getting a little bit worse, especially in the mornings. Yesterday when I was writing, I was watching a stream. Cody was doing a stream and I was trying to catch up on some scenes and trying to write new words, and making sense of new things when you're ill is really, really difficult. Like I was fine retyping words I had already written before, maybe changing a couple of words here and there to make it slightly better, but I wanted to fix a bit of a blank room syndrome moment, and so I had to write a new description of something, and that was so hard to focus on and to keep my head straight into it, but I managed through. And I was really happy with it as well. It's quite gruesome because it's basically, we're now at the scene where they discover the pile of bodies in the sample containment dome, which is when they realize, oh, we found the crews that were on these dead ships, right? Except there's only 7 bodies, and they're like, there should be way more. And by the end of the scene, which is the part I've just written now, Themis goes, there are 7 bodies here. Where are the other 35? That's specifically because she calculates the minimum number of crew members required to send a ship from Vortex to Panacea, and she's like, there should be a minimum of 42 people, including the missing members of Mission Eternity, and there's only 7 bodies, so there's 35 people we haven't counted for yet. That's a really fun moment to write for me, because I was like, this is the sort of the build up, kind of more the mental horror of it is what I really enjoy writing in that scene, is the part where people are realizing, oh, we're fucked, oh, there is more that we haven't seen yet. And I find that scarier than the actual horror itself, and like the moments where shit hits the fan, which is very soon. It's in essentially one scene. So the scene I'm about to write now is when she takes the bodies to put them in the walk-in fridge, and at the end of the scene she sees Kovac and is immediately attacked by him. So at the exact same time as Themis is getting these bodies in the walk-in fridge, we've got the parallel scene, which I wrote to take place after, but it's essentially taking place at the same time. So the scene after that is when Axel is investigating with Jones what the problem is with the water tanks, and then he gets a beep on his monitor because he's like, on his comms, because he's monitoring Themis's heart rate and realizes there's a problem, so he runs back. And the scene after that is when Themis gets bitten by Kovac, she shoots him, Axel arrives, and the dead wake up all around them, and that's when shit hits the fan. So it's technically, all of this is like my midpoint in a way, all 3 scenes. So I'm technically arriving at my midpoint now, but it's almost like the slow burn of it, like the build up to it. But it's kind of like, okay, that's one small horrific moment at the same time as there's a second horrific moment, which is the water tank stuff where Axel and Jones discover there's definitely bodies in there. And then the third horrific moment is like the culmination of that and the climax of that, and that's the midpoint. It's when once she shoots Kovac and he actually dies for good and it kills the substance within him, it wakes up all the other dead around the jungle. So I feel like all 3 scenes in themselves create my midpoint. It's like a crescendo, and that's why I like those scenes and I'm excited to write them. I just wish I was feeling more awake and more myself and less ill, because I would enjoy rewriting them a lot better. But I also left myself very little notes for these scenes because I think they were pretty good in draft one already, so it's just going to be potentially if there's anything that bothers me upon reread, which I have been doing a lot more than I expected. The beginning of the book, I felt like there were a lot of really well written moments that I left exactly as they were, and as I progressively went into the book and now I'm in part 3, there's a lot more moments where I have been updating some of the writing, or like some of the scenes where I'm like, ooh, that voice feels a bit off for this character, or this is a little bit cringe or whatever. So I have been changing small things like that throughout as I went. And I feel like that's the nice part about completely retyping draft 2 rather than only changing the specific scenes I'm supposed to change. I feel like it improves the entirety of the manuscript because I'm doing that, because I'm noticing a lot more of these moments where I'm like, this was not well written, or this feels cringy, or this is off in terms of tone or voice for this character or this scene or whatever. Like right now, there's just been a moment where Freddie and Themis have a quick chat that leads up to them becoming hysterical and laughing even though they're in front of this pile of bodies because they're having like a traumatic response. But it felt a bit awkward and not, and kind of just like, why would they say that at this moment? And so it changed slightly the dialogue, and it's so much better now, and I'm just like, oh yeah, this makes more sense, and this kind of leads up to this. And yeah, it's these small things that make me happy that I made the decision to completely rewrite this draft. By rewrite, I mean retype, essentially. But yeah, I feel like this was a long update because I've been chatting for 10 minutes and I don't think I need to keep all of that footage. Anyway, my plans for the rest of this month, because we have 10 days left in the month and I have these 3 scenes left, is currently in the calendar view of my scenes. I'm planning on finishing the next scene by Wednesday, and then the scene after by next Monday, and the scene after by the 30th, so the last day of the month, which is next Thursday. I think I might be able to do it sooner, but we shall see, because I'll try and write a little bit as I travel again, because yes, I'm traveling again for the last weekend of the month, which is why this month was really difficult to write during. I've got my best friend's Seville wedding, and I'm flying off on Friday and flying back on Sunday, so I might be able to travel write if I feel better and less ill. I will also try and write every single day of the week that I have here. So yeah, I'll probably catch up with you guys when I'm done with all that. Today is Sunday, the 26th of April, and I officially finished writing part 3 of Rules of Survival. I just finished writing it. I thought I was going to finish that last scene way earlier, and I could have, but I procrastinated. And to be fair, I have been busy because I was at my best friend's civil wedding yesterday. So I traveled for that on Friday. It is now Sunday, and I'm going to travel back home to London later tonight. So it's been a busy few days. The manuscript is now sitting at 67,165 words. But yeah, we have 19 chapters. The last 2 scenes were supposed to be 2 split up scenes into chapter 19, but I ended up making it into one bigger scene, and I've just got like a little passage of text that links them together, which makes more sense just because it didn't make sense for it to be cut. We pretty much stop the scene and then start the next scene again without any passage of time. They're literally just entering a room, so I could just have had that as like one bigger scene from the start. So that's what I ended up doing, and I am still counting them as 2 separate scenes and counting the word count for them as separate, but I made them into one bigger scene. I did change my mind as well towards the end, so I thought the 2 scenes that used to be split up that I ended up making into one bigger scene, I thought the first one was the last scene of this part because it was the midpoint, because it's the moment where Themis kills Kovac and then wakes up the dead all around them. So like Axel comes in, realizes that she's hurt, and then they start hearing all the noises of all the dead around the jungle waking up, because it's a little bit of a hive mind situation. I thought it was really weird that it would be the last scene and then the next scene is within the same chapter, as is essentially the direct continuation of this. They're literally entering the control room right after this, and then it's the next scene, and so it's within the same chapter. And so I was like, okay, I think that's the end of part 3 instead. So I added an extra scene in part 3. So it is now spanning from scene 22, which was the new scene when they opened the control room for the first time, up until scene 32, which is when the crew enters the control room and they get stuck there because of the breach alarm, and they don't have a choice but to watch Jones get bitten and turned into a zombie. And if anything, the horror aspect of it and the fact that the rest of the crew is there, it makes it their midpoint. So it's almost like Themis's midpoint is when she finds Kovac and then kills him, and then the crew's midpoint is when they finally see the thing she's been warning them about actually happening, and they finally see it for themselves and realize, oh, there are dead people all around us and they're not alive and we cannot save them, and they are zombies. It's still a bit confusing to call this last scene the midpoint because it's not in the middle. It doesn't sit up the middle of my story. My story is basically like this and this, so it's an unequal split. You have the first 3 parts that sit before the midpoint, so 60% of the story, and then you have the last 2 parts that should be the last 40% of the story. But yes, I feel good about finishing this part on the 26th of April because that means I have a few days if I want to rest between this part and the next, or if I just want to carry on if I feel the motivation for it and I'm willing to just continue working and just getting straight into part 4, I can also do this and take a little bit of advance on it because I still have as a plan in mind to get this over to my CPs in June. Still not decided whether beginning or end of June. Likely going to be in the middle of June. That's probably the idea. So I have the month of May to write part 4 and start part 5, and then some of June to finish part 5. Which is going to be tight because I did just take an entire month pretty much to write one whole part. And I think the month of March was dedicated mostly to part 2. So it seems to be 1 month equals 1 part or 1 act. And I have 2 acts to finish. So this might be a rush, or I might have to end up giving them the manuscript at the end of June. We shall see. But on that note, I hope you enjoyed this video and that you're still enjoying this little series of me writing rules of survival. If you are, leave a like, consider subscribing to my channel, and I will see you guys in the next one.